together so they can try things. Young Politics Podcast so that you can try things. Now we will stop singing so that we can all now try this.
Hello and welcome to Now Try This, the podcast where two best friends get together every week to try something new. I'm Marcus.
And I'm Nick. Marcus, did I ask you if you're recording your audio? You are, right?
I am. I said it openly.
Oh, I wasn't listening because I'm a bad podcast partner. Because this is a podcast. Now try this. That boy is Marcus. I'm Nick, like we have already said, and we are here to try things. But today we are not trying one of our things. We're not trying one of our favorite things that we're challenging the other one to try, like we usually do here. Our road to 100. We're really close to 100 episodes this season. We have put the power in your hands. That's right. Patreon.com/NowTryThisCast. You guys looked, you guys submitted, you all voted. And today we will be doing Dear Mama, the FX docu-series specifically called Dear Mama, the saga of Afeni and Tupac Shakur. Really out of our wheelhouse. We are not experts. I'm going to say that straight up. If we mess up, apologies, but please let us know. We are always trying to learn. But I'm really excited to talk about this. But before we do, Marcus, what did we do last time?
Last time we did Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, Guardians of the Galaxy. Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to finish editing that. That's me. Okay. And that was my challenge to you. And this is the fan challenge. Marcus, are you going to tell me my challenge now or at the end of the podcast?
Nick, I forgoed my challenge because I had given you Evil Dead and I messed up because it was no good.
It wasn't that bad. It's just there was so little to say except good premise, bad execution.
Good premise, bad execution. It was too violent. I love violence. But it was just like I've watched, but yes, before a reason, or if it's violence for violence sake, I know going into most movies that's like, okay, I'm watching this because I want to get to watch people like brutally get murdered.
So that's why you watch that.
Exactly. Or like Terrifier 2 or whatever, like stuff like that. You're like, okay, I know what I'm getting into when I'm going to watch this. I'm going to watch it because I want to see that. It was like, okay, I'm watching a movie that was released in theaters. It's not gonna be that gory. And then I was like, oh, that's weird. I wasn't mentally ready for that.
My problem was it just didn't have the hijinks I was expecting to go with the gore.
There was zero fun.
There was a fun moment or two, like one or two maybe you can argue, but like just unlikable characters. Good acting from one person, the main woman. That's it, I would say. I did not like anyone else's performances specifically. But, you know,
right.
She was very scary. She did a good job being a scary mom.
She carried
a scary mom. You don't see a scary mom a lot, you know? Yeah. Being a mom still, right? That's pretty scary. But it just lacked the love and the fun that Evil Dead
more recently
does,
you've been seeing Scary Mom. I feel like as more women directors come into movies, you see like Scary Mom or like the fears of being a woman and that kind of horror. Like the Controlling Mom is like Scary Mom. What was that movie? There's a Munchausen by proxy movie.
Psycho
that was there. There was like Psycho's not about the mom. Psycho's about a guy with mommy issues.
Well, it's very much also about that. But yes, I hear you. But no, I agree with you. I mean, Barbarian was recent, but that was by man. But I understand that played with womanhood and motherhood in a very specific way. I did not see Hatchling.
I didn't see it either, but I know it's about
I'm sure there's
birthing a giant egg monster.
But anyway, we did not feel like it was worth a whole conversation because we just finished it. The conversation we would have had. And, you know, we don't really like to just shit on things. We like to shit on things when one person loves it so the other person can shit on the thing.
Yeah, but if we both didn't really like it, or both thought it was
that's a pile on. That's not fair.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
That's not fair. You know, even though we are very much punching up. I mean, who are we?
So, Nick, I'll pass the challenge on to you if you want it.
No, Marcus, you get a pass. If you have something to challenge, you very much can still challenge me. Like, that's okay. You technically didn't get one.
I kind of just want to talk about Across the Spider-Verse. If you're feeling that for next movie, for the next one.
Honestly,
I loved it.
I would love the excuse to go watch it again, and I will.
Okay, great.
I will actively go. I have an AMC subscription. I will go watch it again.
Is there something more important coming out? Is there like the Barbie movie? When's that come out?
You know what? I don't know. It can be my challenge. It can be not my challenge. I take back what I said. When The Flash comes out, we need to talk about it.
Okay.
It's my favorite thing.
It is your favorite thing.
But I don't
we need
think
to have a conversation about it.
That's that's this weekend.
The Flash?
So maybe at the end of the month. So maybe we'll do
we just do the
Across
Flash
the Spider-Verse. No, we can do Across the Spider-Verse.
Okay.
Unless you don't want to and you want to script straight to the Flash to be more timely for nobody. That's also okay.
More timely for nobody is so realistically put that you're right. Let's just do Across the Spider-Verse and then let's do the Flash. Who are we being timely for?
Barbie's in July, by the way, 21st.
Okay, cool.
But just as we're talking about it, what an interesting summer. We got Haunted Mansion. I'm going to watch it at home later, but I'm interested to see what it looks like. Barbie, very excited. The new Mission Impossible, which they broke up into 2 parts. I'm very excited about that. I saw a trailer for this Teenage Kraken movie. Looks good to me. I kind of liked it.
Teenage Kraken? I haven't seen any of that stuff.
You didn't see the trailer during the Spider-Verse? So basically, there are these Kraken people, Atlantis people, and one of them is basically blessed and can turn into a giant Kraken like a superhero, but she's like a teenager, so it's all awkward. And the evil people in it are the mermaids. So it's pretty much DreamWorks saying fuck you to Disney and making the mermaids the bad guys.
I like that.
It looks cute. It looks cute. And then Elemental looks good. Oppenheimer looks good. I'm super curious about Indiana Jones. I don't think it's gonna be good.
I want to see Asteroid City.
I'm curious. Asteroid City looks fun. Wes Anderson in top form, it looks like.
New Insidious movie. I'd watch that.
Yes, new Insidious movie. But
Joyride.
I'm also very excited to... Joyride looks fun. I'm very excited to watch Spider-Verse in an IMAX or Dolby. That is how I'm going to rewatch it, because I did not. I watched it at a shitty theater with shitty seats. I'm going to go watch it in a Dolby or an IMAX, because that's how I would like to watch this movie again.
Okay.
So
Ninja
next
Turtles.
week we'll do... Oh, Ninja Turtles I'm excited for. That looks fun. It might stink, but it could be fire.
Yeah. The last Ninja Turtles movie was really good. The Netflix, straight to Netflix, it was like they had an animated series of Netflix Ninja Turtles, and then they had made a movie to kind of like wrap up the whole thing. And I just watched the movie. I didn't even watch the series, and I really liked that movie. I thought it was cool.
The Rise of the Teenage Mutant?
No, that's the new
Ninja Turtles? No.
Oh, wait, is it not?
This is one of the beefy Raphael.
Yes, that one. Is that Rise?
It was good?
The movie was great. I was like, holy shit, I need to watch this cartoon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just don't think we're the audience anymore. But this next one looks like it was made so we could be the audience. You know what I mean? Like in that sensibility.
Yeah.
And it did this Spider-Verse thing, but it looks like the old TMNT comics a little bit.
Yeah.
Like the grittiness, the shading and everything. I'm excited.
It looks great. I'm excited for it too.
People shit on Seth Rogen, but
Seth
I'm a
Rogen
fan, so.
basically said that his approach is that we've never seen them be teens, and he wants them to be teens, which is like kind of true
because it's teenage superheroes,
yeah,
or teenage ninjas. And I think does Blue Beetle come out this?
Yeah, that's another good one,
dude. I don't know if everyone's excited. I'm stoked. I think it looks so slick, and good. And like, even if the movie's just a normal superhero movie and it's just doing normal superhero movie things, the lead is from Cobra Kai. Love that kid. Want the best for that kid. Love that we're getting a superhero named Jaime and he's Mexican American and all that stuff. But it also, on top of all that, I just think the suit looks slick. Like, it looks good to me.
Yeah.
Like, it looks really top notch. And I'm super surprised because, like, if you look at the Smallville Blue Beetle or like some of the other adaptations of Blue Beetle, they have not looked good. They do not look great.
That's true.
But this looks good.
I like it.
Great.
I'm excited for it too.
That's a rundown of the summer. We will do Across the Spider-Verse next week, and the week after that, in rare form, we're saying what we're going to do. We're going to do The Flash because I'm pretty sure it's going to be a hot ass mess, and I'm excited to talk about it.
It's pretty good. The reviews are too good that it seems suspicious.
I agree. I agree. No movie. I'm so mad they made a situation with a movie that I can't root for because it's so problematic. They can't have the lead do press.
As a fan,
whatever you feel
of anything, I think everyone has empathy for you.
It's so frustrating. The fact that I'm not like opening night, putting on my Flash costume, ready to go, which should be the case. You know, I've been waiting for years. I'm so sad.
Literally your favorite superhero, and you can't be hyped for it because of everything going on around it.
But I think the action's gonna look okay. I'm excited about Michael Keaton. Everyone says Supergirl's been bomb, and literally no one has mentioned the Flash in any of the little things I've seen. So that's just where we're at. You know, everyone's like, "Oh, Michael Keaton's so cool." Supergirl. Henry Cavill said she's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great,
cool, awesome, cool. This movie's called Supergirl and Batman.
Well, they changed the name 5 times, and now it's the Flash Worlds Collide. You know,
that's stupid. Could have just been Flashpoint.
Honestly, I'm kind of glad they didn't, because now they can save it. Even though they're kind of using the story, the actual Flashpoint story is so brokenly cool in concept.
Yeah.
The execution, if we read the comics, was good. Not great, but good.
It was good.
But the idea of it is like killer.
Yeah.
You know what my problem was? And now I'm just getting really in the weeds. My only problem with Flashpoint is the intention when they did it was to be like Age of Apocalypse, where they stopped the titles for like 2 or 3 or 4 months, made them Flashpoint titles, and then went back to it after everything got changed.
Oh yeah.
And I just think
that.
that's just such a big commitment to your shtick. And they backpedaled really quick and had all the titles not affected at all, and just had a lot of miniseries. And that's fine. It's just not as good. And you don't have your top writers who are writing Batman write the Flashpoint Batman, right? Like, it's just, there's like so many little reasons why it didn't quite stick the landing. But, you know, that's enough talk about comics, because we're going to talk so much more about comics
in the next 2 weeks
and the week after. Marcus, anything you'd like to tell me you've tried before we get into
Have
Dear
I
Mama?
tried something new? Nick, you know, I'm still on the board game design grind. I've just been working on board game designing. I've come up with like 6 concepts. I've play tested 2, and they're pretty good.
You've got me thinking about making a board game. You've been talking
you can
about
do
it.
it. I'll do it with you. I'll do it with you.
But anyway, did you try any of these new things? Have you found any success? Are you excited about?
Yeah, I play tested the second one, and we had a great time, and I was surprised. I feel like it's so funny, because whenever I do one, it's like I keep saying this. If it went badly, I would be happier. But because it went well, now it's like, oh shit, this could be like a real thing. So now I have to work on it. And I have to keep play testing it and growing it and thinking about it, which I am enjoying. But it feels like failure is easier to accept than success for me.
Wow. Please tell me you talked about that to your therapist, because there is so much. There is so much. Like, I feel similarly a little bit sometimes, but not to the extent that you just verbalized it. And that is, I would love to find out where that comes from. Because you're not lazy.
No,
you are not a lazy person.
Yeah.
You're
failure
actively
means
the
it's
opposite.
like, I know what to do. Success means I am good enough, and that's not okay.
That's scary.
That's scary.
That's super scary. I had a good idea.
Yeah.
I get that. I would say what I've been trying new, but I have just been. I was sick for the 102 fever for a week. A whole ass week.
That's fried brain cells at that point.
Well, it wasn't quite 102 the whole time. It started off a little bit, and then it broke down to right under 100. So I like went out and did some lessons because I thought I was okay. And then I came back and I was just dead for 4 more days or 5 more days. And then it got to 103, and I was like, do I gotta go to the hospital? And then it went right back down to 102. And I was like, okay. So but I kept checking every hour. Is like, am I gonna die? Because 103, you go to the hospital because brain cells might die.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's very scary.
It was just sick. You were just sick.
I was just sick again. I think it was just the flu again. Marcus, we are here today to talk about Dear Mama, the saga of Afani, Fanny, and Tupac Shakur. This was given us to by Fear God of Death, voted on by you guys. I swear to God to you, I texted Fear God of Death and I was like, no, you're an idiot. No way in hell Dear Mama is going to win the poll. I know you love Tupac. Yeah. I know I love Tupac. No one else gives a shit. I was wrong. It won. It plainly won. We did not mess with the votes. It just won. And I was very surprised.
Join our Patreon so we can text and harass you and bully you and let you know that your things are not going to win. And then you can prove us wrong.
I would love that. I would love to tell you
I don't know how it won.
And then
based on the people well, I guess I don't know all of our patrons personally, but I know a good chunk of them personally. I don't know how this won. I'm surprised.
I'm also surprised, but honestly, really glad it did, because I've been meaning to watch this and to talk about our history. I am actually a pretty big Tupac fan. I looked around because my Funko's up there. It's a little far. But I, growing up, did not know music. and we've talked about it before, I'm not a big music guy just because my mom didn't listen to music. My grandma didn't listen. Like I didn't get that. My dad listened to the Eagles or my mom loved the Beatles. So I don't have that. So I fell in love with Britney Spears growing up. But then I had a friend named Joseph who was obsessed with Tupac and would burn me CD copies of all the CDs he bought.
Nice.
And I became obsessed. I listened to, on repeat, multiple albums of his all the time. I know all the words to some of these songs. I'll sing one or two of them in karaoke sometimes.
Wow.
It's not, and on top of just being great music and me loving it, Tupac, the person, I've always just found fascinating and interesting. And while this documentary told me some stuff that I already knew, I was really excited to watch it because anytime you can revisit a figure that means a lot to you that you don't know everything about in a new light, I always think it's really cool and really interesting. You know what I mean? But what about you? You grew up in the Bronx, so I don't even know if
I grew up
you're
in
on the wrong side
in the Bronx. And that is not where Tupac is popular. I mean, he's popular everywhere, right? He's Tupac. He's popular everywhere. But there was a big East Coast, West Coast beef, and Tupac was on the West Coast. So I feel like there was a lot of like negative perceptions when I was growing up in the projects, like about Tupac.
Yeah, fuck
but
that
respect.
guy. Well, Biggie's where is that?
Yeah. That kind of stuff.
Tupac's a punk.
So I never got into Tupac until, I mean, I never got into Tupac, period. But like I learned more about him in college when I became friends with you, and you were really into Tupac. And then I feel like,
I would just put it on the radio or the things a little bit, and you were like, "This is a jam. This is
the most Tupac I've ever listened to."
Sure. And I'm sure, I mean, I always really love his storytelling, really deep stuff. So I'm sure you're like, oh, wow. This is
no, it's incredible. I feel like too, rap and hip hop at the time, it was evolving, right? Like it was about like, you had Rapper's Delight. There was like a hip, a hop, a hip, a hippity, a hippity hop, and you don't stop the boogie and the bang. Yeah, you had that kind of stuff. And it was like, cool, fun, good stuff, and then slowly there was like this offshoot of like gangster rap. There was like, okay, more and more people are like, okay, cool, it's fun, like rap isn't the mainstream, rap's being played on the radio, let's use this to tell our story, right?
And so that was happening with the NWA,
exactly,
Daddy, Nas, Jay-Z, Tupac, Snoop. That was like the era of it starting to change from that. I put on the hat and I put on the fat.
I went to the street and I bought some milk. I walked upstairs and I pet my cat.
And really funny because I'm really curious about because you probably didn't know some of the stuff. I've watched lots of documentaries before, but like Tupac got his start the Digital Underground, which is one of those rap groups where in Tupac's words, they made party rap music,
Party rap. Yep. That's exactly what it is.
Like that's the vibe. And he was their roadie and their backup dancer. And that's how he got started. So please walk me through, like, I will to get into all of it, but I would love to hear what you thought and what you saw when it started. And it was talking about Tupac, like at the beginning. And like, I don't know if you knew any of this stuff about him and how he started. And
I feel like
that he started as a poet and like all this shit,
I can't start without already complaining about that documentary itself. So Tupac is just like, I've watched a lot of documentaries. I love watching documentaries because I love learning. I'm the kind of person who will put on a 3-hour long video essay about something and just let it ride the whole time while I'm getting work done. That's the kind of thing that I love. So I feel like with the documentary, it feels like there's usually a narrative that's being strung together. And I feel like with this documentary, I feel like they were trying to do that, but it didn't feel like it was as cohesive as most documentaries I've seen are, if I'm like comparing it. Because it felt like we're trying to tell the story of Tupac's mom and we're trying to tell the story of Tupac. Yeah. And they're not like necessarily weaving a connection between them other than that the fact that they are mother and son. They tried. And
it did not land a lot of it. There's a point or two. It was like, interesting parallel. But mostly
exactly.
I agree with you.
So they're like drawing parallels, but it's not strong parallels.
I agree with you. I was so surprised with how much Afeni Shakur was in this documentary in terms of narrative and how I don't think it's a negative. Every time we went there, I was super interesting and I was excited to
Yes.
learn.
Yes.
But I think there was something. I feel like something was lost because they made that choice to rely so heavily on that connection. Because, and I know the documentary is not about that. It's just I'm sure you were feeling it too, where there were so many moments where you're like, I want to know more about when Tupac made that song. I want to
Exactly.
know
Yeah.
more about when he appeared in that movie or was on
Yeah.
MTV. Like a lot of these like big tentpole moments to like really try to get into who he was and how he became the way he became, because that's what the movie was about, right? How
Yeah.
Tupac became Tupac. It was through his mother, but it was also because of Tupac. And they were like, I actually thought very oddly that the documentary could have been longer. Like that's kind of my complaint.
Agreed.
Where
Agreed.
I wanted more of those little moments of
I-
Tupac's actual life. And, you know, every time they cut to Tupac in an interview
Mhm.
or him speaking, it was just so powerful and interesting.
agree.
And like, and I wanted way more of it. We spent a little too much time with a narration about the Black Panthers in the past.
Yep.
And I think there's room for it. I think it was super crucial with the story they were telling, right?
Yeah.
But I agree with you. The narrative structure of the documentary left you wanting in a way that wasn't great.
And I agree with you too. I feel like your point about it, you wanting it to be longer, I was thinking that like, oh, I would have loved 2 documentaries, one about Tupac's mom, one about Tupac, but in the same style, maybe around the Black Panther or around how they help Black communities. Something like you can connect them, but they're 2 separate things, 2 separate miniseries. I don't know. But I was like, I want to see a lot more Tupac. And I also wouldn't mind seeing a lot more about Tupac's mom. Like, that's fine. That was a good, like, that was good and informative. And I liked watching it. But together in the one documentary, it just felt forced.
Every time they went back and forth, I was like, oh, I was just getting into the, okay. Cool.
Yep.
Oh,
exactly.
I was just, oh, okay, cool. You're right.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, God, like, all that being said, like, I agree with you. And I just said all this stuff. How fascinating talking about Tupac from the lens of a child of a mother who was in the Black Panther Party as an activist, right? Like that scope, that point of view was something I've always known, but I found out so much more about his mom in this documentary. And I found out so much. I knew a lot of the Black Panther stuff through watching Judas and the Black Messiah and watching One Night in Miami. And those are just those a couple movies that I've watched really recently. But I've always known some of the stuff about the infiltration of the FBI. And how all these things. But I've never thought about it or saw it portrayed in a way how it had a direct effect on the etymology of someone like as a figure like Tupac.
That's
or,
a great way
or
of
anyone
putting
like
it.
that.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. Right?
Yeah.
Because that's what like the what is the 1819 project or no the 1619 project, right? Yeah, I think it was the 1619 project was this book of collection of essays to talk about how America is the way America is because of slavery and how all of those things still affect everything.
Yes.
And like just to give one random example, the reason that there aren't a lot of Black people that own homes is because of laws that happened in the 60s when people coming back from like Vietnam and in the 50s and 40s when people coming back from war. And like, I don't know the history too well, but like the fact of the matter is there are all these little things again and again in history that you can point to that affect us now, affect the fact that most inmates are Black or people of color. The fact that, you know, most low income houses are people of color. Like those aren't because people of color are poor. It's because people made people of color poor.
Yep.
Because they used to be owned.
Yep.
And like that etymology has been something that's really been looked at, I think, in media and our lens of trying to figure out, especially with the BLM movement happening recently. I never thought about it in terms of like a specific anecdotal story of someone who I idolize and know a lot about. And I really appreciated that. I really liked that.
I feel like that's why it's so important. Like we have so many people talking about like this whole thing about not wanting to teach critical race theory, not wanting to teach all this stuff in school. And like, it's so silly because it's like, how are you going to learn and see the connections if you're not looking at history as a whole, right? You can see the through line from slavery to today of how that's impacted the Black community. You can see the through line of our treatment of like women's rights and women and all this stuff. And you see like how that's impacted things today, where our current belief systems even come from and why we still hold them today. Like stuff like that. Like you see that all if you look at history, if you just study history.
Yeah, and when you don't, you get people. I just saw Jon Stewart tackle this subject, I think last year on his Apple TV show, and he had, I might have even shared the clip with you. He had basically a round table, and one of the guys was racist, but in the way where he's like, I'm just trying to make sure that white people aren't victimized for being white. Like he was one of those people, right? And he was trying to say, I think his main point he was trying to say was, Black people are worse off because they don't have fathers in the home. Like that was his like true north of what he was trying to say and how that is something we need to fix. And Jon Stewart kept going back. Yeah, but why is it that way now? How did we get there?
Yeah.
Why are a lot of Black fathers in jail? Why did we get to this point? How did we? And he was like denying the history. He's like, no, we have to fix the things now. And Jon was like, you're in. And he eventually was just like, I'm so sorry you're so racist. But you have to look at how we got here. And this movie, this documentary, has been one of the best examples of showing how that happened with a premier figure in the Black community as of now, as we know. And that was really cool.
Yeah, no, I love seeing the history of the Black Panthers, learning more about that because I learned about them in history class. I feel like I got history.
You learned about them in history class?
Yeah, I mean, I took history in New York City. Like I was growing up in the Bronx. Like we learned about civil rights movement. Like majority of what we learned about, I felt like was civil rights movements and stuff like that.
That's actually really cool.
Which was like really nice. It was really good. And then later as an adult, I learned that like not everyone's getting that kind of
I didn't learn. I had to go seek it out. Yeah.
That's crazy. No, they were very focused on that stuff, and I was like, "That's great. That's what I want to learn about. I want to learn about like what happened, how we got here, why the movements that people fought for, why people were fighting."
You know what's funny? I feel like I grew up in a household that was pretty open minded, but we're not like very educated on things like this, so I had to seek these things out. I feel like my first exposure, honestly, to the realm of civil rights and the issue of racism and Blackness in America were the TV movies about like Brown versus Board and Rosa Parks. You remember those like TV movies? Yeah. I think those are my first and there was an MLK one. Those were my first like exposures to. That's like
hilarious.
Whoa, look at that. You know, like I faced racism all my life, but
of course
growing up, I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know where it was coming from. I didn't understand it, you know?
Yeah.
But that's so funny that I remember now as we're talking about, that was my exposure. That was my first like watching. Like I very plainly remember in that Brown versus Board movie about the first Black girl who went to a non-segregated school where she wouldn't eat the food. She would only eat potato chips because they're sealed and she knew no one would tampered with them because she was terrified. And I remember that so vividly, and that being my aha moment as a kid, like, oh wow, people suck. You know,
it's
how interesting.
Oh man. I also felt like this is gonna sound silly, but when watching the documentary, I was learning so much about Tupac, and I was like, man, like he also was born in he was like Harlem, talked about the Bronx a little bit. Like
he was born in he spent a lot of time in New York growing up.
Yeah, just moved around a lot, and I was like, wow. I feel like I was like, wow, me and Tupac have some stuff in common.
100%,
which is very silly to think about, but it's funny.
It's not silly at all. I think you're literally speaking on the fact of why Tupac became Tupac and why he is such a figure in music and in rap in the Black community, you know. And so just to get it out of the way, the thing that I had to keep reminding myself the whole time when anytime I'm thinking about Tupac, this dude was 25 when he died.
That was crazy. I didn't know how old he was when he died. So when
I knew that, but you forget because
he's 25.
Because he looks like a grown ass man.
Yes.
He looks like a grown ass man.
Yes.
By the end of his life, and
he was a child.
You always think of that. You think of that Alexander Hamilton song where it's like, man, my dude was nonstop, and he's always writing like he's running out of time. And like, here's a great example of another artist who knew he was running out of time and wrote like it. I think the documentary said 10 more albums came out after he died. And I bought I ripped from Joseph and then later bought a lot of them, his posthumous posthumous, whatever. After he died, albums, there's a lot of brand new stuff that they mixed and released, and it's crazy.
That's amazing.
25, and like, he didn't start super early. He graduated high school, and then he started touring with Digital Underground, and he didn't start releasing his own stuff till 19 or 20. So maybe 19. So 6 years. He did everything he did in 6 years.
That's the huge impact he's had in 6 years was wild.
That's wild.
Yeah.
How he got there. And, I think that's something I really appreciate about Tupac, because it's really easy to get caught up in the saintly parts of Tupac about how he was a poet growing up and how he's trained and how he was such a good actor and how he, was so verbose in his learnedness and in his opinions and in his activism and in his thoughts. It's so easy to put him up on a pedestal, right?
Yeah.
But the movie did do a good job. Be like, Tupac fucked up. Tupac really got caught up, and
he did.
That sucked.
It was sad.
He knew it, and the people around him knew it, and he didn't have a chance to bounce back from it.
It's sad to watch because in the documentary too, like, I don't know a lot about Tupac, so I'm watching this, and you see this like young, hopeful guy. He's like, hey, I like
the clips when he was 17.
Panther. He's, he's just like knows a lot of, he's worldly. He knows a lot about shit. He sees the problems in the world, and he's like, here's what I want to do to fix them. He's like writing poetry. He's just like, it's just like you see this kid, and you're like, oh, he's just a kid who like
he's it.
Yeah, he's just a really smart kid who's gonna have a bright future ahead of him. And then that he dies and he gets shot later, which is just like, it's so sad to watch that happen and see him grow and see him get more involved with like
and see
the
him
rap
fail
music and sort of like dive more and more into this like persona and how that like he was struggling with like whether or not that was really who he was, and that was all kind of like sad to watch.
It was very sad. It's a very sad story. I mean, I think Snoop was the one who in the very end was talking in the movie, in the documentary, was talking about, was like, you're not a real man till you're 27 is what people say, and he wasn't even there. And Snoop and a couple people said like he was on his way to get out of it. He was the one saying, I'm gonna get out of Death Row Records. I'm gonna squash this beef with the East Side. This should end. This is stupid. Let's get back to protecting our women and protecting our kids. And he was like, Snoop painted the picture of like, if my dude had more time, he was turning the corner. Yeah. And like that to me is like the set, because like I will be one of those people that will defend Tupac a lot, because I was like, no, he's like a fucking artist. You really need to look at his stuff and understand why and where and how. But I'm not gonna lie, especially at the end there, like, when he released Holler If You Hear Me and he completely destroyed Puff Daddy and Biggie and like really instigated the stuff and was at Death Row and like making these records that were like, at the beginning of his career, it's like, I don't make gangster rap. And then by the end, it's like, that's clearly gangster rap. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where it's like, it's all part of it all, which is important. But like, you're rooting for him so much to go to all those moments he speaks, like when he was on that talk show and he was talking about like, the Black experience and like how we got here and how we have to, and how all these kids are now, parentless, and now they're all our kids, and like we have to take care of all of them. And like when he's speaking at these Black Panther rallies and saying, you're not doing enough, we need to do more, it's like a shame. Like I think he would have, I think we never know, but I think he would have been so important in like politics and the world and the movement. And like something that I speak on a little bit, I had before, is in the BLM movement. I stand by the movement, but I fear that without anyone to spearhead it, we've lost focus of what we're fighting for anymore. And I think Tupac would have been one of those figures. He could have been an MLK or a Malcolm X in how he spoke and what he was saying, and
his reach too,
and his reach, right?
Yeah,
but we never got there.
Yeah, no, I don't think he would have been the kind of person to stand by and not talk on a lot of what's going on, which is weird because I feel like celebrities have so much power and they never like not never, because they donate and they do their own thing, but like I feel like you rarely ever see them like fighting and standing out and like actually being like using their momentum to talk. But
Yeah.
a lot of times you do too. It's give or take, but percentage wise, the amount of celebrities there are versus how many of them actually go out and do things to change the world is like small. Like
And
Rachel Bloom,
we can blame them, but you know.
like Rachel Bloom was on the at the writer's strike, like helping striking and motivating people. Like that's cool, that's awesome, stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. It's always such a funny line of like celebrity where it's like if you could see it in the documentary, some of his publicists and people were saying were like, stop talking. Stop talking.
Yeah.
And they like couldn't, no one can get him to stop talking. Which was like a gift and a curse, right?
Yeah. I also feel like,
what did you think of that? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say I also feel like I don't necessarily want to say that like him transitioning into gangster rap was a bad thing. It like in the beginning you could see clearly like he was just taking his poetry and rapping it out loud and like transition, and that's kind of like his first early like things were like so deeply personal because it was like, oh, this like very deeply personal thing I'm turning into a rap, you know, about like what it is to be like a young black man in America and stuff. And then later on, I feel like honestly, he just had a lot of anger, and I feel like it was kind of like directed in the wrong place. But I do feel like,
you know what, I really
appreciate a good way of
it
expressing the anger that he had.
Yeah, it showed us where the anger came from, right?
Mhm.
That's one of the newer things that I really liked about the documentary. His anger started because you got to remember, he was never arrested before he released music. It was when he released music talking about police brutality, he got fucked up. And the documentary was like, from the first time he got messed up by the police, he wasn't the same.
No.
He had a chip on his shoulder, as he should have, because he got his ass whooped by the police. And then with the sexual assault charge and him having to go to jail for a year, it showed where the anger came from, and it was so warranted, right? It was like, I do not blame the man for any of the almost, you know, sometimes I was like, chill out, dude, but like, but most of it, I'm like, I get it, I get where the vitriol and the spewing comes from, because like they are out to get him, and that was where the parallels were good, because they were out to get the Black Panthers. They did stuff specifically, and then it showed like George Bush Sr. and Quaid or whatever, that politician, and like all these politicians specifically talking about him, and it's like, I get it. You know, how do you fight against everyone? You fight. Right? You fight.
When you feel like the world is against you, have nowhere to go, like what else you're gonna do but get angry at the injustice that you're facing. So it makes sense, especially since like he had a huge target on his back, right? Like you had the Black Lives Matter connection. I mean the Black Panther connection, where like people were just, you know, they were hunted, the FBI infiltrated them, they like, I mean, fucking during the Reagan era, just like the FBI distributing crack in poor communities, like just all this stuff.
Scheduling crack as a schedule whatever drug, as opposed to cocaine, a schedule whatever drug, just because it's the white people drug and the black people drug.
Exactly.
Right. Like it's all there.
All this stuff that is documented and the government has admitted to now. Like, it's just like this insane stuff specifically targeting the Black communities. And I did like the connection of showing like, this is what these two people, Tupac and his mom, have specifically faced, have to put up with this distrust, this like fighting against the government, specifically being targeted, feeling like they have a target on their back, because like how many members of the Black Panthers were like sought after, arrested, killed, like just because they were fighting for the rights of Black Americans. Like that's crazy.
And I what I really appreciated was, I didn't know how much, I knew his mom was a Black Panther, but I didn't know to the level of what she was with the organization. She was like paramount and crucial. And, like was the lawyer for that big arrest that happened and like all those things. It was really eye-opening. And then every time she spoke, I was like, wow, I like see it. I see where Tupac got it from. I see, you know, where he learned these things.
I feel like,
and that was really cool.
I feel like this is, I'm always going to bring it back to anime. This feels, and I don't know how you feel
the
about
Tupac documentary?
Dude, every episode I can
Are you about to compare
anime.
Tupac to Naruto?
I feel like, no, is it like Naruto? No, it's the documentary itself feels like the recent adaptation of Berserk, where like people I feel like liked it. The people who liked it because of the content, and the content was good and interesting, but the format and the package wasn't necessarily like the right thing for that content.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean? So I feel like it's the
Yeah.
same thing where it's like, yes, Tupac is kind of inherently interesting to watch. And even like, I don't want to say necessarily that this is the worst made documentary, but like even like a lesser quality documentary is still interesting because it's about Tupac. Same thing about his mom. It's like the meat of it is interesting, but I feel like the way it was distributed might have not been the best package for it.
I agree with you, but it's also still worth watching though, because this documentary has footage that's never been released. And
Okay.
some of these interviews have been way more sincere than I've seen. You know, like they really had his aunt, like his aunt was like spitting truth, you know, about in some of her moments, and like that only exists because of the documentary, right? But but like it's I'm just saying what you said again. The stuff is good. It's just the packaging is not.
Yeah, and
right.
I honestly, look, I'm going back and forth. Yeah, I want to be able to critique the documentary, but I don't want like if the person making the documentary were to watch this, I don't want them to think that they necessarily did a bad job. There's a documentary that like didn't it win an award?
I think it's okay if you. I think it's okay if you do that because the dude's apparently pretty easy to beat up. So you can Tupac beat him up.
Oh, okay. I missed that part. He was one of the brothers.
Yeah. Funny. He made Menace to Society is the guy who made this documentary, and he literally had to talk about how he got beat up by Pac.
He got jumped by. That's hilarious.
Yeah, by Pac. Yeah, yes,
that's hilarious.
It's very funny. It's very funny.
I love that.
I don't think the Hughes are going to personally be offended if you did not.
Okay, perfect.
Packaging of this movie, I think.
But okay. I just feel like it could have been directed a little bit better. Maybe there was like restrictions from Hulu, but I feel like the connections weren't as strong as I would have liked. But also that being said,
I think it's also it didn't want to rehash things that have already been hashed. I think is the thing.
That's true.
But you've never watched those rehashed things.
When you make things like this, you have to assume that people like don't know everything going into it, right?
Yeah, agreed. I
think if I'm watching this just because I want to learn something about Tupac, I should be able to like learn everything here, or at least reference other sources. Be like, hey, if you want to know more about this, like maybe it's just because I'm used to watching 3-hour video essays that then go into like, hey, if you want to know more, go to this person's channel. Yeah,
you know what? That really what it is. Video essays are just the better form to do this. That's all.
I do. Yeah, I do.
For something about you know what? You know why? Because I think documentaries are scared to have a narrator, and a point of view, and a video essay is a narrator and a point of view. Yeah. It's like, this is my point of view. That's the video essay.
That's what it felt like.
And sometimes that's just a better story.
Most documentaries do have a point of view. They are trying to, I feel like most documentaries are trying to persuade you, even though they necessarily shouldn't be doing that. They're trying to like push you towards an opinion or viewing something in a certain way. It's almost impossible not to do that. But it feels like this documentary was so scared to do that it ended up just not really like having a take.
I agree with you. Question: have you seen Juice?
No, I haven't.
Ooh,
have you seen it?
I should challenge you to watch Juice. Yes,
is it good?
It is a great movie.
I did want to watch it. After
I haven't watched it for 10 or 15 years. But I remember when Joseph brought it over and we watched it. I was blown away by like how right it was for like 4 Black kids growing up and what they were going through, right? Like it just like that's what the story is basically, you know, them fucking around and you know, and it's now this story has been done a lot and you know, but like Tupac was a powerhouse. I think I just watched a clip on YouTube where somebody asked, I think it was one of the brothers who directed this documentary, and he said somebody asked him what Tupac would be doing now, and he would be like. He said an Academy Award winning actor, 100%. I have no doubt in my mind, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember him being really great in Juice, you know, I'm sure you can just guess by watching the documentary. I think he'd be a really good actor.
Yeah. And based on the couple of clips I saw of him, I was like, oh shit, he's like a good actor. And he even said he's like towards the end of the documentary, he's like, I want to move on. I want to be done with this. I want out of rap. I want to like just focus on
at
acting
least
and maybe even like direct
it. Yeah. I think it's such a shame. It's so crazy where we ended up, but you know, it is where we ended up. Shoot, I lost my train of thought. I had a question and I lost it. Please go on.
Oh no. So I feel like I learned a lot. it's kind of hard for me not to harp on the fact that I do want 2 separate documentaries, because I feel like I want to know more about both of these things.
You want to know more? Yeah.
I would love to know more about both of these things, but that's not necessarily how documentaries work. It's not like, oh, this did really well, let's do a sequel documentary, you know?
No, you just have to go watch a different Tupac documentary.
Yeah, but now I got to go watch
another
a 3-hour video essay on Tupac somewhere.
Honestly, that sounds great.
I'd watch it.
I'm gonna look for one when you're done. Gosh, you know what? I just really love those moments because it just reaffirms the good guy image, and not a good guy, but like a good person image in my head of Tupac and things like that.
Yeah, this movie
where
did
he
that.
was on that clip when he was on a white talk show with white people and a cop. Not a lot of people would put themselves in that situation.
Also,
honestly, I would say most rappers wouldn't.
Yeah.
What?
He was too famous for that.
Oh yeah, he did not need to do that. He did that because of the activist in him. And he was so good at sparring with these people. They're like, this music just tells beat up cops. And they're like, I've never once said that. You haven't listened to the music. I'm talking about the police brutality happening to our people. And it was just like, when you listen to his lyrics, it's just still so timely. Like I was struck when he said when he got beat up the cops, they were holding his neck and he couldn't breathe. And I was just like, we're still here. It just happened again, and we're still. It's just so nuts and so nauseating.
That was the most hard-hitting part of the documentary, is that all these things that Tupac was fighting for, all these things that Tupac was saying about police brutality, about like how divided we are, yada yada. It's all the same. Like, it's all the same crap that we're talking about today.
And I also got, every time he talked about like women and the Black community and what we have to do and the world and life, it just always rung so true. It's just the persona, I think, gets in the way of some people hearing that, because I know a lot of people who worship Tupac and they are not enlightened individuals. They treat people really bad, including their women and including their peers and including their children. And they're like, yeah, Tupac. And I'm like, yeah, but did you listen to him? Did you hear what he was saying? Did you really look at all the words? I mean, one part of the documentary I really enjoyed was because I knew Brenda Got a Baby. I knew the song, but this was one moment where they took their time explaining where the song came from, and it really worked for me. Where Brenda's Got a Baby was one of his first singles he made, and he made the song. And it was literally about him reading a news article about an 11-year-old girl who left her baby like in a dumpster, and him talking about, and that was the whole song. And that's like so artistic and important and artsy, and like it's Tupac doing it, who is like the epitome of thug life, right? And it's like that moment really struck me and almost made me cry, just because it's a powerful song and a powerful message, and it's hard to listen to because it's so true and awful.
It's so funny. This is a broad generalization, and I apologize, but it is funny, like growing up with this kind of music, right? Growing up in the Bronx, and like hearing this kind of music for you, hearing music about like how hard it is, the struggle. You relate to it because you're in that environment currently, you're trying to get out. Like, it's just like so interesting to grow up around that, constantly being like, yes, this is hard. Other people have it hard. I mean, there's that one song that's like, what would you do if your son was at home crying all alone on the bedroom floor because he's hungry and the only way to feed him, like stuff like that. It's like, yeah, what would you do? And it makes you really think about the world and all the struggles, and you see these struggles reflected in your own life too. And then you find out that most of America doesn't listen to this music, or like hasn't even like heard of these songs. And it's so, I feel like I go through that all the time, especially like with Darren and other things like that, where I'm like, oh, do you know this song? This like song that I thought everyone listened to. And it's like, nope, they're listening to like Billy Joel
The
and
Beatles.
Bruce Springsteen and shit like that. Not to say that music isn't about its own sort of like struggle.
Hip hop is
a
very specific
different
kind of art form.
Yeah.
Hip hop was created and came from struggle, right?
Yeah.
It was literally like, we don't have a voice. Jazz did the same. It was like, we don't have a voice, so we're going to make one.
And there's something so powerful about that too. But when you are elevated to outside of your own like sort of like little dome, right? And you are given a voice in the public, if like you are then tasked with having this responsibility of representing all of your race or all of your community or whatever that, and it just kind of like you see that burden
Sometimes
in
very
this
not
film.
fair.
Yeah, you see this burden that Tupac
but
had
some
in this film.
people like Tupac really step up to it. Like he was like, I welcome it. I'm ready for it. I'm gonna do something about it.
But you can
like
see
all
the weight
those
it
moments
bared
when
on
it
him.
happened, he couldn't grapple between the fame and the having nothing and the really. What struck me was the documentary was not shy about this, and I knew about this a little bit, where it's like really it was going to Suge Knight and Death Row. Like that's what like really like cemented some of these like thoughts and things and about like how he was like thinking about some of these things. But that was happening before that with his friend who got him messed up with the sexual assault charges, right? I forget his name. I don't think it's important to remember his name.
Yeah.
But he like saw a thug, a real thug, a real gangster, and like was hanging out with him, trying to like learn from him. And that's what ended up costing him a year of his life, right? And when he went to jail, you know. But yeah, it's like how do you be hard and open and honest at the same time? And I think you can't. And he found that out firsthand, him trying to grapple both of these things. But I did really appreciate when they asked, the aunt was like, yeah, people said he was bipolar. He said, it wasn't bipolar. It was just hard to figure out, like anything.
I did really like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
because some people really would say stuff like that.
You're supposed to be one way, and you're supposed to only be that one way. And if you are any other way, then people are going to say, oh, you're bipolar, or you're like whatever. It's just he had a lot of pressure put on him, and he was both an artistic, like intellectual guy, and he had to be a chameleon. I feel like the documentary did a good job of saying this, but like he had to be a chameleon to fit into both worlds that he was trying to fit into.
Yeah. And all of that has a huge caveat, right, Marcus? Because usually somebody does all this while they're trying to figure out who they are in their 20s.
Yeah.
He was 25 when he passed. I just saw something that said he'd be 49 now.
That's crazy to think about.
You know, I don't know if that's actually right, because he was born in 71, 81, 91, 2001, 11, 21. No, he'd be like 52. He'd be 52.
It's pretty young.
But that's
what's that? Robert Downey. That's younger than Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, that's
Ryan Reynolds' age.
So I don't think that's right.
That's how old is Ryan Reynolds? Some young celebrity.
46. 52 years old. Mark Wahlberg, Jeremy Renner, Matt Damon, Ewan McGregor, David Tennant, Taraji Henson. Yeah. None of those people are done by any means, or like they're all at the top of their respective fields, and he would be too, and that's crazy. Nathan Fillion, Ted Cruz. I don't know why he's on this list. He's not a celebrity. Yeah. Well, Marcus, do you think I know you're like coming into Tupac kind of fresh and learning things, but do you think you got a little insight into what makes him tick?
Yes, I'm ready.
Good. Okay, let's roll the clip. We're playing a game.
Now try this trivia. Now try this trivia. Now trivia. Now trivia. Now trivia this.
Marcus, I have 10 lyrics here. Maybe even a couple more if we go quick. I have some rap lyrics. Some are from Tupac and some are from not Tupac. And you have to guess whether or not it's Tupac or too fake.
I love it.
That was the best I had. Tupac or too fake? Tupac or too fake? I will say the lyric. Bonus points if you can say who it not is, or if you can name the song. But this first one is, and I just got these from the top 15 inspirational Tupac lyrics and the top 29 beautiful lines in rap songs.
Okay.
So here we are. Through every dark night, there's a bright day after that. So no matter how hard it gets, stick your chest out, keep your head up, and handle it.
Through every dark day, there's a bright night.
Yep, that's what you have to do. Take it and
I feel like he had that, like, he was just talking. It wasn't bad. It was good, but
it's funny. Sometimes he plainly is not rapping.
yeah.
It's what he was saying.
I'm
not how
gonna
he was saying
say no, just because it didn't feel right saying it like
cool.
that.
It is Tupac
Damn
Shakur
it.
from In My Heart.
Okay,
Is the name of this song.
that's from his early cheesy days. Also, Old Man Rum. That is a crazy fact that I also forget.
Oh, I didn't
Definitely
see it.
knew
What
at
was
some
it?
point. Barbara Walters, MLK Jr., and Anne Frank were all born in the same year.
Man, death is hard.
It's crazy.
Death is crazy. All right.
White people live a long time,
Here.
man. It's crazy. I keep saying that to Darren. She's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "It's just you gotta have access to like things that keep you alive. It just you live a long time. It's crazy."
You are so correct. Okay, you ready for the next one?
Yeah.
No one knows my struggle. They only see the trouble, not knowing how hard it is to carry on when no one loves you.
Oh God, that's either early Tupac or somebody else because that's kind of emo, and I feel like he was like a little emo boy earlier in the days. I feel like I liked the part of the documentary where they were like talking about his old like diary, and it was just like, "I'm sad this girl doesn't like me." It's just like, oh,
that's how all
poor
poetry
baby.
starts. It's so great. You know what's really interesting? I didn't talk about in the documentary in the music. A lot of the times when he's rapping the lyrics, they actually, and I recognize these songs, so I recognize that they stripped back all the percussion and all the other stuff, and it's just a very simple beat and just him rapping, so you can listen to his words he was saying a lot of the time. I don't know if you knew that was happening.
No, I didn't.
But like a lot of those songs weren't the way the songs actually were because they stripped it all back to like really listen because it was a poignant moment that like encapsulated the theme. It was pretty cool.
I like that. Okay.
All right.
I'm going to say
What is
not
this?
Tupac.
It is Tupac.
Damn it.
From his very famous song Thug's Mansion. No one knows my struggle. They only see the trouble, not knowing how hard it is to carry on when no one loves you. Picture me inside the misery of poverty. No man alive has ever witnessed struggles I survived.
You gotta do it deeper. Picture me inside the life of poverty.
I'd like to not try to do it in person.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm already out of my element. But that is Thug's Mansion. Great song. One of my favorite. The whole point of that song is him talking about how there should be a place that thugs go when they die because did we do stuff wrong? Yes, but this is how we had to live. So there should be a place in heaven for us where we can go and be a real G. You know,
I feel like there's
a
really interesting thing that he touched on that's like life has been so hard and it's like and people complain like, oh, why aren't you living this way? Why aren't you seeking education? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And it's like sometimes to survive, to live through the pain of life, you seek out drugs, you seek out the women, you seek out whatever it is, whatever vices you can get, because that's just all you have to get through it. You don't have an out.
I think the documentary did a good job doing that sometimes. There's like, listen, he went and like fucked a lot, but like, wouldn't you? That life was hard. And I was sitting there going like, I would. I really would.
Yeah.
Next one. Is hip hop just a euphemism for a new religion? The soul music of the slaves that the youth is missing.
I feel like the other two I said were Tupac, and then I said no, they weren't Tupac as my official answer. Like I was like, oh, that sounds like early Tupac, and then I was like, okay, it's not Tupac. This one, I'm just gonna say it's not Tupac and just continue that in hopes that I get it.
That's super silly. Do you really think that?
Yeah, it's not Tupac.
Okay, it's not Tupac.
Because
because you're trying to game the system, which will not work going forward.
Fair enough.
Will be tricky.
Okay.
This is Kanye West's from Gorgeous.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. Even though you're fed up, you got to keep your head up.
That's Tupac.
You sure?
Yes.
Yes, it's Tupac from his song Keep Your Head Up. Have you heard that song before? You've
No,
heard
I
that
have
song
not.
before, right?
Nope.
Oh, Keep Your Head Up. No?
I
Oh,
probably
it's a good song.
have, honestly. If you give me the chorus, I've heard it probably.
You're so silly. Keep your head up. I gotta hear the music. All right, let's see. Driven by my ambitions, desire higher positions, so I proceed to make G's eternally in my mission is to be more than just a rap musician.
That's Tupac.
The last two are both Tupac?
Yeah.
Damn it, you're right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's from Unconditional Love.
Tupac's raps are just like, aspirational. He's just like, I want better. I want
Dude,
life to be good.
all of them. A lot of the good ones. I mean, some of them he's really like, I fucked your bitch, and
yes, that's later, Tupac.
It's some early too. It's all in there, you know.
He has a whole rap that's like, we need to respect women. Like, women deserve better.
Dude, I don't even know what to say about that part of the documentary. It was like nauseating about like, I don't know what's true. Obviously I'm on Tupac's side. He's one of my favorites, but like having someone who spews that kind of stuff so much and then to have what happened to him happen to him.
Yeah.
And to have him come out of the situation sad and upset he didn't protect the woman. You know, it's just like so heartbreaking.
Yeah. Anyway. Especially since his lives early days, he was like, we need to do better. We need to be better. And then he wasn't better.
Yeah.
Or he was around bad people that kind of.
But then he blamed himself. I could have done better. I should have done more. You know, I should have made sure everything was good.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Okay. Tomorrow I wake with second wind and strong because of pride. I know I fought with all my heart to keep the dream alive. That sounded like Shakespeare.
I don't know. That sounds aspirational, but I don't think he was like, I don't know if he was self-aware enough to know that he did a good job. You know what I mean? Or like had that confidence. So that's where I'm kind of stuck. Because if he's like, I know that I fought well, like that's good. And I that makes me happy if it is Tupac. But I don't know if he would pat himself on the back. Just all I know about him is from this documentary. So I'm going to say it is not Tupac.
It is Tupac from his song "And Tomorrow."
Is that the one where they're all wearing white suits?
Maybe. There's a couple where he wears white suits, honestly. Next one. Long live the rose that grew from concrete when no one else even cared. You're so
That's Ja Rule. No.
That's really your guess?
No.
Oh, okay.
You know, I wanted to say it's Tupac because he mentions a rose. And all the ones that have been softer have been Tupac. Let's say Tupac. Why not?
That is Tupac from The Rose That Grew from Concrete. There's actually a collection of his poetry that's named after this lyric, The Rose That Grew from Concrete.
Oh, that's nice.
I think I bought it for Joseph once as a gift. It's good. It's very good. Okay, next one. You gotta make a change. You see the old way wasn't working, so it's on us to do what we gotta do to survive.
Not Tupac.
It is from Tupac, from his very famous song, Changes. I see some changes, wake up in the morning and I ask myself, is life worth living? Should I blast myself? I'm tired of being poor. Yeah.
Damn it.
Very famous. Very famous. Here's the next one. Here's a message to the newborns waiting to breathe. If you believe, then you can achieve. Just look at me.
That's Tupac.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Tupac.
Yeah.
It's from Tupac's song, Smile.
He's just very aspirational.
Okay.
If you believe, you can achieve.
That's exactly how he would have said it too. Here's the next one. Don't settle for less. Even a genius asks questions. Be grateful for blessings. Don't ever change. Keep your essence.
That's not Tupac.
That is Tupac from the song Me Against the World, which was one of his albums.
Okay.
Me Against the World. All right, 2 left. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Never surrender. It's all about the faith you got. Don't ever stop. Just push it till you hit the top. And if you drop, at least you know you gave your all to be true to you.
That's not Tupac.
It is Tupac.
Oh,
my song Strictly for My N period I period G period. You can fill in the rest. Last one.
Nigerians?
Don't play this game with me. 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 Abort. I was doing an improv scene earlier and the guy said, yeah, I thought you wouldn't want to date me because of all the cuts in my hands. And she was like, what? And he's like, no, it's not what you think. I cut them to make sure I can still feel things. And then he realized what he did. He's like, oh no, not like in a bad way. Just like my therapist said I like need to feel things. So I have like cut in my hands. And he was like trying to dig out, and he couldn't dig out because of what he said. It was very funny.
That's weird.
It was very un-PC, but I thought it was very funny. I was dying by myself, like just like covering my face, trying not to laugh too hard.
That's hilarious.
I thought it was very funny. Last one. My mama always used to tell me, if you can't find something to live for, you best find something to die for.
That's Tupac.
It is Something to Die For. It's the name of the song. He really likes those numbers.
If Tupac was still alive, he would have been in a movie with Jet Li. What's that movie? Kissed by a Rose?
It was with DMX?
Yeah, he would have been that guy instead.
100%. He was in a lot of them. He did a lot of movies. Last one for bonus. I make mistakes but learn from everyone. And when it's said and done, I bet this brother be a better one. If I upset you, don't stress. Never forget that God isn't finished with me yet.
That sounds like Tupac.
And it is from one of his humorous? From his already dead albums. Ghetto Gospel. Very good song. Those who wish to follow me, hit them with a little ghetto gospel. Those glad to bend my hand. Yeah, it was. It's very good. A lot of his music is very good, and the stuff that they released after he died, which the documentary told us was his mother fought and sued to make sure she like.
I liked that a lot because I thought it was a record company being greedy, and then finding out that it was like his mom and his family releasing the albums and getting the money. That made me feel good.
Oh yeah, it made me feel good about where the money was going, but it was also like they did it to care and to show, and a lot of that stuff is like pretty inspirational in terms of like Tupac's albums. Like Ghetto Gospel is like it hits hard. It hits really hard.
Remember the Tupac hologram stuff?
That was in the documentary for a second. They talked about it.
Did they?
They showed it. It was right at the end. Maybe you just missed it. But like Dr. Dre, it was at Coachella and they brought it up and how like it was a big deal. And like his mom was there, I think.
Oh.
So it was like, which made me feel a little better about it because I was like, oh, they're like honoring him in this way. It wasn't like
in my head, it's a very tacky
it
thing. Yeah.
In my head, it was so tacky. It was so tacky. Wow. Documentaries by Tupac is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Whew. Oh, the one that you probably want to watch that I have watched that was a big deal was Tupac Resurrection.
Okay.
That was a big one that came out when we were kids that had its own soundtrack with a whole bunch of new songs.
That's cool.
With lots of people we know. And one of the songs on there is a track where they put Biggie and Tupac together called Runnin'. That's really good. I like that song a lot. And now that I'm looking at it, Afani produced it all. So that's good.
I feel like
Eminem helped produce it too.
I like that. I want to watch that one.
Yeah.
I
Tupac Resurrection.
Another critique of this documentary is I feel like it was weird when they were talking about Tupac being shot the first time to be like,
it was nominated for an Oscar. Sorry.
Which
documentary? So Tupac Resurrection.
Oh, cool. It felt like he was like, he shot himself in the dick, right? Like we all know he shot himself in the dick. Like it was weird. And it just felt so out of place. It was like, what are we doing? Why is this a comedic thing? He just got shot.
It was a little funny.
it just felt so jarring. It took me out of it. It felt disrespectful.
I understand. There's a lot of little moments like that weren't quite. There was a little too much Mike Tyson. There was like I understood what they were doing for the narrative they were trying to do. It fit. It's just I didn't want that narrative. I just wanted to learn about Tupac and a fight.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
I feel like if another like critique of the documentary, it felt like, oh, we got Mike Tyson, we have to use him, and it was like, why? He doesn't. What he's saying isn't like super relevant necessarily. Like it does make sense.
All the Snoop stuff. Snoop stuff felt really good.
Yeah, but it felt like, okay, you're forcing this because you got him there, or maybe they were expecting to get more and they didn't get what they needed and they just wanted to use it anyway. Like I don't know what, but
I think he said some pretty crazy things, So I think it was just like,
but he went on a fucking rant about how violence made him horny, and I was like, what the fuck?
No, it didn't make him horny. It made him hard.
No, it made him horny.
He didn't come. He didn't come
off.
He didn't. That's what he said. Remember? He didn't get off. He didn't come. He didn't come. He was just hard.
Violence doesn't make me come. It makes me hard. And he'd be like, the fact that we spent like 5 minutes on that and Mike Tyson
It wasn't
clarifying
5
that,
minutes, but any amount of time was unnecessary.
I was like, what is this?
You know?
Why are we doing this?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, they got Eminem, so you have Eminem in there a little bit. Like, I could have taken leave. I like Eminem, so I like hearing him talk about it. But like, that wasn't necessary for me to find out more about Tupac. He wasn't alive. He was alive. He was a kid when this was happening.
Yeah,
you know. But when Eminem was like, we'd be the same age, I was like,
that was crazy.
That's crazy. He's done so much. I actually really like the Snoop stuff though. Snoop Dogg. I've never been like the biggest Snoop Dogg fan because, like, I don't know, his music always feels like a little whatever to me. Like I haven't like really connected with it in a very serious way. But like he just is like an elder in the community. You know what I mean when I say that? Like he's just like the guy you talk to about this stuff, and he like just gets it. And he was like very like it felt very humbling when he was like, I was a kid. I was just kind of following Tupac. I didn't really know what to do. I should have reached out. I should have spoken up. I didn't know what to do. I kind of felt stuck too. And I was like, that's Snoop Dogg does not have to say that shit.
No, he does not.
Snoop Dogg.
Snoop Dogg provided a lot of good stuff for the documentary.
He did. And he put a lot of ego aside to talk about Tupac. And you could see the love and like the regret and how he was talking about it. I'd like that stuff. Yeah. And the family stuff, I really like the aunt. She was just a character. She was just really fun. I liked the aunt a lot. You know, every time she had something to say, she was like, listen, I love my sister, but like she could talk. I was like, yeah, it's very funny. It's very honest.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I think the framing at the beginning ended up being a different framing by the end. Like they started off with how he shot that the off-duty cops, in the butt.
Yeah.
And I was like, where are we going?
I do feel like things fell apart in the like editing room when they were trying to piece all this stuff together.
They were trying to craft a story, right? They were trying to make these through lines to go back and forth between Fanny and Tupac in an interesting way. And every once in a while it worked, but most of the time I was like, I don't know if her being a lawyer, though there was that. I did like that one moment where I think it was when she was doing the closing remarks at her trial, and it was when Tupac either was going into jail or got out of jail or something, and they both had a speech that was in both of their words. They had recordings of them both speaking, and they were similar. I really like that. That was a cool moment where it was like talking about parenting and where you come from is really important. And I don't think we get a lot of it. Not in this way, especially with historical figures. Wow, I guess Tupac's a historical figure. He's been
definitely
dead so long. But you don't get it a lot with this kind of stuff. Like I've seen lots of documentaries about famous people, but I don't get a documentary about how their parents shaped them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was really interesting. That was really cool.
Yeah. Well, Nick, are you ready? Do you have anything else to add?
I'm sure if we sat here, I can think of stuff, but I think just my biggest takeaway from the documentary, the thing that I liked about it was how we really got to go chronologically from seeing Tupac as a 17-year-old kid in high school drama class talking about the problems of the world and what he was going to do, and literally seeing him be a roadie and get his first shot with Digital Underground and make his first song and make his first viral song, and then not be able to go to the MTV Music Awards because he was in jail, and like all those little things that built up on the anger. It really painted him in a light that I've never really thought about, because Tupac is so iconic that you forget that, I don't want to use victim, that he was so affected by the times with Rodney King and with the police brutality happening, and it's such a crucial voice that I think we need to learn more about. We need to look more at like what he said and how he said it. But I think that's happening. Lexi literally just told me that as I was talking to her about this documentary, she knew some of this stuff, and she was like, "Isn't that common knowledge?" And no, she said, "Why do I feel like that's common knowledge?" And she said, "Oh, it's not. We had someone come in and teach the kids about this stuff and watch documentary."
That's cool.
Them. And I was like, "That's really cool and really important."
That's awesome.
And like kids, I know some kids I've taught that just they need to see and hear this stuff, to know that it will be okay and it can get better, and we have to do it together. And that being said, a lot of people who will never experience his music or his words really need to see them. I really wish there was a way to get them those words and these things to those people. And it's a shame that we never got it, because I think he would have. I think he would have spoke politically. I think he would have spoke on all the talk shows. I think he would have really been a voice for the voiceless in these really trying times.
Yeah. No, I agree. Nick,
Marcus, anything else about Dear Mama?
I got nothing else.
All right, go for it.
Did you like the documentary?
I thought the packaging was not ideal, but I learned a couple of new things, so I really enjoyed watching it. What about you? Did you like it?
I think that while I am critical of sort of like the direction of the documentary series, I feel like it is worth watching. It's just not the definitive like Tupac documentary.
Oh, long time no see. Welcome right at the end of the podcast. Icy Wings. Here, right in time to hear what we thought about this documentary. Marcus, would you recommend this documentary to anyone?
I would recommend the documentary. I think if you are a big Tupac fan, but you know a lot about Tupac, then this is a great documentary to add more to what you already know. But this isn't like a good, I want to learn about Tupac kind of documentary.
I agree. I mean, from my recollection, I haven't watched it for 10, 15, maybe 20 years. I probably watched it when it came out in 2003. Tupac Resurrection was a good one.
Okay.
People want.
Honestly,
and
I do want to watch that now.
You should. Tell me if it holds up. I'll watch it again if it does. I know at least the music. At least listen to the album, the soundtrack. Like I used to. That was one of the soundtracks on my rotation. That soundtrack, because it has some great songs. Cool. And some people we know guest on some of the songs, like Eminem and 50 Cent and things like that. Marcus, will you watch more?
I will watch more. Yeah, I'll watch that documentary you recommended. What about you?
Hell yeah. I will wait until you tell me it holds up, and then I will rewatch that documentary. But I will probably, algorithm wise, YouTube probably knows now, I probably will go watch a video essay or two in some of the, to go more in depth in some of these moments. Like I really want to like know more about his time at death row. I really want to know more about him making that first album. I really want to hear more about his experience on his first movie or a second movie, you know?
Yeah.
Those are like really interesting, right? Like the fact that Tim Roth came and like spoke for a minute about working with him on that movie, it just seemed like I want to hear more. I want to see more, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it's just that want, because he's gone and we won't ever get more. And it's sad. So yeah, like chasing Moby Dick is the best thing to compare it to. Well, Marcus, that was the podcast. Thank you to Patreon for sponsoring this episode. Go join the Patreon if you want to give your suggestions on what we should do next. And then every month, everyone votes and you guys get to decide. You guys get to be our best friend once a month. It's very exciting. You do that over at patreon.com/nowtrythiscast. Next week, we are doing Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So we will make sure to tune in Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/nowtrythiscast. You, of course, can watch the VODs there later or on YouTube or wherever you can get your podcast. Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, reviews. All that stuff really helps. But the thing that helps really, truly the most, so we know that you are here, you are listening, and you want to be a part of this community, go to Patreon, join, let your voice be heard. We have nice dialogues with everyone in there. We have a Discord. We will definitely invite you to once you join up, and we'd love to see you there.
Yep, you said it beautifully, Nick. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Remember to go out there and try some things. Good night.
Good night.
Friends get together so they can try things. How about it? It's podcast so that you can try things. Now we will stop singing so that we can all now try this.
Oh, I also play tested my second game.
Oh, cool.
The drawing one.
Yeah.
And it was fun. We were laughing and having a good time.